Hey guys, what's going on? This is Hunter Starcraft. Welcome back for another broadcast. Thanks for tuning in for today's matchup. It's going to be a tournament match today, a 1 versus 1 on Shattered Temple. Spawning at the 2 o'clock position as the blue Terran player, we have a favorite player of mine, a Korean pro from the Team Prime. We have Marine King. He is formerly known as Boxer and has a pretty stellar record at the GSL 1 versus 1 league. MarineKing.Prime has made it to the finals in 2 tournaments, which, I mean, the only other player to do that is OGS MC, and actually, I guess MVP as well. But, you know, to have that title alongside names such as MC and MVP, the best players in their respective races, is a pretty big feat and a pretty huge accomplishment. So MarineKing.Prime really has established himself as just a powerhouse, an aggressive Terran player from the Korean scene. And although his ID is coming up as Orcus, this is MarineKing.Prime. This is on the Southeast Asian servers, though, this particular tournament match. So apparently MKP had to grab a Southeast Asian account. So that explains why his name is listed as Orcus. At the 9 o'clock position, our red Protoss player, player who hails from the Southeast Asian server, I guess I'm going to call him Nv.xiaOt. The clan is Nv. I've seen a number of his clanmates play, but this guy's ID, yeah, Nv.xiaOt. So I'm just going to call him Xiaot. It's probably wrong. It's obviously a name from another language. I'm not sure actually which country this player is from, but yeah, I'm just going to go with Xiaot and yeah, just do my best with that. This is going to be a tournament match, like I mentioned before. It's a game in a best of 3. It's on Shattered Temple, and these guys have spawned quite far away from each other by foot, of course. This is the regular version of Shattered Temple. Some tournaments prevent you from spawning at the 9 and the 12 just because you are so close by foot. But that's not the case here. These guys, I mean, this match should shape up to be pretty macro-oriented, just because of their distance by foot. 1 gas down already. The first barracks has a reactor on the way. This Marine, I believe, forced away the probe. If we take a look, the probe did get some scouting done. The only thing he has not seen so far is the reactor on the initial barracks. Of course, this Marine forcing the probe back to the Zelnaga watchtower in the middle of the map. The SCV arriving just a little bit later. He took 1 peek around already, and now that there's a cybernetics core, of course, the SCV, well, MarineKing.Prime knows that there's going to be a Stalker on the way, and he gets his SCV out of there as soon as possible. Stalker heading out in hot pursuit, of course aware of where the SCV is, but I don't think the Stalker stands much of a chance of catching him. This SCV is going to head home as there is a second barracks on the way, and a tech lab going down on the second barracks. No factory just yet, and still just mining off of 1 gas. MarineKing.Prime staying true to his name, going to be pumping out lots of Marines from this reactor barracks and getting concussive shells and an initial Marauder out as well. Going to only finally begin to wall off the top of his ramp as we have a Nexus going down at Xiaot's natural expansion. Just spreading out his pylons as well. He's going to want to have as much vision of his main base as possible. And the opening we're looking at from Xiaot is a 3 gateway opening, 3 gateway expand. Of course, he put down his Nexus before he put down his 2nd and 3rd gateway, however. Just has a Stalker here patrolling for good measure. Wants to spot any airborne scouts right away. I guess at this stage, the only thing possible for scouting would be some kind of building if there was some failed proxy. Sometimes Terran players will build, you know, if a Terran player has no interest in getting factory units, they may put a factory down near their opponent's base and use the factory to scout, and then, of course, you know, put starports up in their main. Now, this probe, if he doesn't act fast, is going to get destroyed by a ton of infantry, but of course, Xiaot knows that this is coming, so mobilizing with whatever forces he can. He actually has a robotics facility down as well. 1 Zealot, 2 sentries, and a Stalker. Gonna do what they can to hold this off, but this is very standard MarineKing play, very aggressive. Even brought 7 SCVs along with him, putting down a bunker on the low ground. It would have been nice if he could have trapped some of those probes and gotten some worker kills. A force field traps a Marine and a handful of SCVs on the ramp. Let's take a look at the vision of MarineKing.Prime during this engagement. Of course, he can use these two SCVs to spot the high ground and Marines and Marauders from down below, but let's take a look at the energy of these sentries. He does have enough to put down one more force field. This Nexus is taking a lot of damage, though. Its shields are depleted, and it looks like this Nexus is just going to get straight focused down. Back at the Terran base, we don't have a second gas yet, but we are going to see a command center. The command center just began construction right now, and in the Protoss base, still just producing off of 3-gate robo. He does have a 4th gateway on the way, though, and I mean, the Terran player, MarineKing.Prime, does have a pretty good containment. He's got a bunker on the low ground, plenty of infantry, and this Protoss player just has absolutely nothing to break that containment right now. But hold the phone, we got a Warp Prism on the way. There are 3 Stalkers in this Warp Prism, and MarineKing.Prime has absolutely no idea that this is coming. He's going to warp in some Zealots as well. And it doesn't look like MarineKing is going to try to bust up the ramp or anything. {XiaOt} is pretty confident. He knows that he has about 4 or 5 force fields in case MarineKing.Prime tries to rush up the ramp. He can delay for quite a while. And there isn't a whole lot at home here to defend for MarineKing.Prime. This is a very strong counterattack. A ton of Zealots being warped in. It's got 7 Zealots, 3 Stalkers, and this whole Marine Marauder ball is forced to run all the way home. A supply depot gets taken out there at the top of the ramp. And, oh man, SCVs versus this many Zealots, that is not a fight you want to be in as a worker. And look at this, now having sentries in, he's going to be able to force field the ramp and basically have free reign in the Protoss base for at least another 30 seconds or so. He's doing a lot of damage. He's already done a lot of damage to the economy, and it looks like {XiaOt} is now going to escape with what Protoss forces he has left. Barely escapes with the War Prism, only 8 hit points left on the War Prism. As I pull up the units tab, we see only 7 SCVs left, along with a couple mules for MarineKing.Prime. So this is a pretty brutal position, to say the very least. I mean, the worker count really telling the story. 27 workers versus 9 at this point. Trapping a Marauder there, taking out the bunker as well. But this is going to be a strong counterattack. We may wait to see {XiaOt} do something similar, force field the ramp the way he was doing before, because I'm not sure he's going to want to just straight up engage this. And, oh, an Observer, or maybe that was the Warp Prism, does get taken out. What does he have left? It was the Warp Prism that got taken out there. And I would certainly expect that Warp Prism had at least a couple units in it. I believe there was a Stalker, at least one Stalker, and then maybe a Sentry or Zealot in the Warp Prism as well. As we see on the supply count, actually the Terran player is still leading despite his huge worker deficit. I mean, he's been clawing his way back. MarineKing.Prime now up to 15 workers. Another Observer heading in for {XiaOt}. Still, well, only at this point getting a starport up, switching the starport onto the reactor. Going to be pumping out double medevacs. And a Nexus going down at the 6 o'clock position. MarineKing.Prime sort of realizing it's going to be a little difficult for him to control his natural expansion. And as such, he's just going to put it down at the 6 o'clock position. Oh, is he going to scan? Does he have... Oh, he's going to have enough for a scan in 3 seconds. Is he going to scan and take out the Observer? Yeah, very nice. Double expanding. {XiaOt} also putting down his natural Nexus. Let's take a look at the vision of MarineKing.Prime as I select one of MarineKing's buildings. Yeah, he definitely has no idea about this 6 o'clock expansion. And as I mentioned a few minutes ago, he is actually going to be using his factory to do some scouting. At this point, and for the past few minutes, {XiaOt} has been producing off a 4-gate robo. He finally has a robotics base, getting thermal lance right now. And this factory just finally arriving here. These sentries are not going to have a lot of DPS. This factory is going to be able to do lots of scouting. But this is actually almost a good decoy Nexus. I mean, MarineKing.Prime is gonna see this Nexus and is probably going to assume that there isn't a random 6 o'clock expansion as well. Like the pylon placement as well. Going to spot the low ground in this area here, just in case MarineKing does choose to scout over there. 1 Colossus out and 4 sentries on the field with some Zealots and just 1 Stalker at this point. Lots more Zealots on the way. Keep an eye out for these force fields. as this is going to be a big engagement. And oh man, the Marine Marauders tried to focus down the Colossus, took out all its shields, lots of force fields going down, and the Zealots just doing a lot of damage, but eventually they do get taken out. There's still a lot of infantry left here. It looks like that Colossus is going to get focused down if he's not careful, but he looks like xiaOt manages to escape to the high ground with that Colossus, but for the second or maybe even third time this game, this Nexus is in jeopardy. It doesn't look like it's going to get taken out though. xiaOt able to warp in some reinforcing Zealots, as well as chrono boosting out a second Colossus as well, just to fend off that, you know, that pressure from MarineKing.Prime. A very aggressive build from Marine King, only finally saturating his natural expansion. He's got some mules down there. This factory still just hanging out. 460 hit points. If xiaOt does a little bit more damage, the factory will begin to burn. Xel'Naga Watchtower going in possession of MarineKing.Prime. I only realized that there are actually some maps that you can destroy the Xel'Naga Watchtower, namely Xel'Naga Fortress. Saw that on GSL last night. I was very surprised to see that. This factory just going to head off to the top left corner. And xiaOt just going to have a great economy shortly. 45 workers for the Protoss player and only 33 for MarineKing.Prime. I mean, he's come a long way from his like 7 measly SCVs after that deadly War Prism drop about 5 or 10 minutes ago, but I mean, he's getting back in the economic game. But if MarineKing.Prime doesn't do some real damage shortly, he's going to fall behind as we enter into the late game. And this is a big engagement. One Guardian Shield goes up, but the Sentry gets focused down. These Colossi just doing a ton of damage. 17 kills on this Master Colossus. They just do a ton of splash, and I don't believe there are any upgrades. No, there are not. 0-0 for the Marines. So they just take so much splash from the Colossus, and 3 Colossi able to just mow down a ton of that infantry ball. Chrono boosting warp gates, just warping in as many Zealots as he can at this point. xiaOt now staying on top of his macro. He does have a nice 25, 24 supply lead at this point. So, I mean, as I mentioned just a couple minutes ago, when you're when you're 3-base Protoss versus 2-base Terran, especially with the unit count this different, about 50% more workers for xiaOt, I mean, you're really going to start to pull ahead at this stage in the match. It looks like xiaOt maybe even posturing up to pick up a 4th base in the top right. Of course, this expansion now accessible through these destructible rocks, unlike the Lost Temple that we used to see the pros play on. MarineKing.Prime now fully saturated at his natural. He's pulled a lot of workers away from his main, as his main is just about mined out. Finally getting some upgrades and putting down more barracks as well. Soon MarineKing.Prime will be producing off of 5 barracks. He's getting, of course, +1 attack for his infantry. Let's take a look at the vision of xiaOt as he's bringing in yet another observer. Just keeping an eye on what's going on. And MarineKing.Prime looks like he's going to pick up the gold. So as xiaOt sees this, this could very well cue him to attack, as we're seeing many more Zealots getting warped in. I believe, yeah, Twilight Council now nearly complete, and I'm sure we're going to see Zealot charge. We're getting +1 ground attack from the Forge. Chrono boosting, he was, I think he used 1 chrono boost on that, although maybe not. He's only 45 seconds into the upgrade, so maybe he's not choosing to chrono boost just yet. But as I'm saying that, he puts down chrono boost on the Forge. It's always good if you, especially with this many Nexus, I mean, he's going to have 1 chrono boost there, and look at this one down here, 67, 68 energy. It's good to just dump all your chrono boosts if you're starting to build up energy on your Nexus. Just dump them on the upgrades. It's a great way to keep your chrono boost energy low. Picking up a potential 5th base here at the gold. Nexus going down at the top left. So, as I mentioned before, I mean, the Protoss player is xiaOt, knowing that MarineKing.Prime is now going to be picking up his 3rd. I said that maybe xiaOt was going to try to attack, But you know what? You basically have two options. Attack and try to deny the third base, or just continue to expand yourself. And that's what xiaOt is going for here. It seems that he really does favor a macro game, as he's going to have 4 bases. Well, he's got 4 bases fully saturated now. And he's keeping a close eye on the unit composition of MarineKing.Prime. He knows about the Vikings. And despite the knowledge of these Vikings, he continues to pump out more and more Colossi. I like what Huck chooses to do in this situation. You know, in the mid-game, he gets Colossi out, and then as his Terran opponent pumps out lots of Vikings, he switches to High Templar. It's a very strong tech switch, but we don't see that just yet from xiaOt. Nice scan there. It's going to spot the positioning of the Protoss army. I would love... Oh, this Observer... Oh, that was a bit of a mistake. I guess the Observer was just instructed to follow either, you know, one of the medevacs or the infantry. Doesn't really matter, but he followed the Terran army right into that scan and got taken out. It's too bad. This SCV just hanging out. Maybe going to try to befriend that probe there. I doubt that friendship will last very long. We have a potential engagement. Is this going to be it? Let's take a look here. Both these players eyeing each other down, blinking back. Zealot charge now complete, or now, sorry, nearly complete. It's going to be done in 8 seconds. xiaOt actually chose to get blink first. He's got +1 attack, and the Terran player has +1 attack. The Terran player, MarineKing.Prime, only just started +1 armor. He is getting more production facilities, though. And he's getting more tech labs as well, putting down 2 tech labs. Let's take a look at these shields here. We haven't seen any good EMPs just yet. All of these Protoss units have just about full force fields. Or sorry, full force fields. Full shields. This Ghost gets focused down. Looks like that Ghost did use one poor EMP. Now this is a huge engagement. We have these Vikings focusing down the Colossi very quickly. Force field sort of zoning off the Marine Marauders. Oh man, 1 Colossi here. He's going to want to micro that back. That Colossi has 6 hit points left. xiaOt warping in a ton of reinforcing Stalkers, and these Stalkers are going to chase the Marine Marauders all the way home. Blinking back, injured Stalkers. Another Colossi gets focused down, and it looks like xiaOt now sort of on the retreat. And look at this. This is a little bit awkward down here, as MarineKing actually has no idea, even at this point, that xiaOt has picked up this 6 o'clock base, and MarineKing putting down a command center here of his own. It's going to be very easy for xiaOt to warp in some units and take out, or at least harass, this 6 o'clock natural. Gold base really kicking in now. And it has been for at least a couple minutes, especially with this many mules here. Let's take a look at the income tab. 80 harvesters to 45, favoring xiaOt. Of course, xiaOt's got 5 bases now. But the income is not hugely favorable to the Protoss. But don't get it twisted. The Protoss player is definitely in the lead at this point. MarineKing is going to want to battle back at this stage of the game. He's trying to micro back with his concussive shells and stim packs. He's got a ton of Marauders. Doing some good damage for sure, but now that the Protoss player has got +2 attack, those Zealots definitely did a lot of damage. This Colossi, somewhat sacrificial, gets taken out as well. A Dark Shrine is on the way. More and more warp gates going down. If I take a look at the control groups, we see 14 warp gates for our Protoss player. It makes it very fast for him to reinforce. Just really so warp gate heavy. He only has 1 robotics facility, 1 robo facility, 14 gateways, and queuing up some upgrades as well. Now he's getting those high temps. Of course, the Templar Archives has been completed for a minute or 2, and we don't have Psystorm out just yet. So, morphing in some Archons. Quite possibly my favorite unit in the game. Archons are just so badass. I'm looking forward to seeing their splash damage on the bio of MarineKing, and only at this point now MarineKing realizing I've been had. I've been so unaware all game long about this 6 o'clock base, and finally he realizes. So I think that's going to force MarineKing into a very defensive position here, as we've got a ton of Zealots sort of leading the way here. The Stalkers then blinking behind the Zealots. Nice little micro there. Of course, you're going to want to give the Zealots the room they need to do their charge, and 3 Dark Templar as well. I'm going to want to see him send them to different points, or maybe just use these 3 DTs to just massacre the mineral line here at Marine King's natural. They definitely did a lot of damage there. 4 kills, 3 kills, 5 kills. Yeah, lots of SCV kills, especially when Marine King is down SCVs to begin with. And xiaOt now going to do a little work at the gold, but hold that thought, because he's going to want to engage straight up all of these charge lots, doing so much damage. The Stalkers blinking in behind them. The Archons as well, doing 47 damage to biological, of course, with that +3 upgrade. And they do splash damage as well. Just a ton of damage being done to Marine King's army at this point. He has fallen way behind in supply. I'm not sure what Marine King is really going to be able to do from this stage of the game. I mean, he's very aware that he's just being out-expanded by a tremendous margin. No proxy pylons, actually, for xiaOt. It'd be nice if he had a probe up closer with his army, just so he has a shorter rally point to warp in using his freaking 14 gateways, warp gates. Forces the gold command center to orbital to lift off, gets focused down by the Stalkers, and I'm thinking that we're going to see MarineKing.Prime tap out as xiaOt now just heading into his main base. He's going to take out the couple barracks at the natural, and then I'm sure he's going to head up the ramp, and as soon as you're in the Terran production facilities, that is pretty much GG. Terran player, or the Terran race, is really the one that, you know, can't bounce back if they lose their production facilities. They're pretty beefy production facilities, thousands of hit points on each one, but if you lose them, that's just about good game. Not a whole lot else to say about this particular match. I think that this is going to be it. The half supply, MarineKing.Prime, yeah, basically half the supply of his Protoss opponent, xiaOt, from the clan Nv, putting on a real show for us today, and basically showing us, you know, how powerful it can be if you can just hide an expansion. You know, it's a risk that you're going to take. Of course, if xiaOt's 6 o'clock expansion here had been taken out when he initially put it down, MarineKing.Prime would have likely won the game, as xiaOt would have just been so far behind after losing a number of Nexus, but he was able to hide it. MarineKing.Prime didn't have the scouting to find out this crucial piece of information, and as such, you know, hitting the late game portion, xiaOt just had a bigger army. Also, don't forget about xiaOt's creativity. While he was being contained by MarineKing.Prime's Marines, Marauders, and Bunkers, he had that very crafty Warp Prism technique with some Stalkers and Zealots, and then warping in some Sentries to force field the ramp so that the Marine Marauders that are fallen back from, you know, his base to that Marine King wanted to use to defend, they couldn't get up the ramp, and xiaOt just did a ton of damage in MKP's main, bringing his SCV count to what was it, 7 or something? You know, that's definitely going to contribute as well. So just a couple factors there contributing to the victory. This macro player really takes it to one of the top Korean Terran players, GSL finalists on numerous occasions. So I'm very impressed with xiaOt's play. I hope you guys enjoyed this exciting matchup. Stay tuned for more shoutcasts, more announcement videos I have coming up, some big exciting announcements. I'm going to be doing more of the Rebel Yell campaign, and yeah, some other little StarCraft projects and videos upcoming. So stay tuned for those. If you want to, if you're interested in more, definitely subscribe. Just click that above the video, subscribe to Hunter StarCraft. And if you want to follow me on Twitter as well, I keep you guys updated, and I will definitely respond to any tweets you guys send my way. So follow me at twitter.com/HunterStarCraft as well. Okay, cool. Thanks a lot for tuning in, guys. Take care. Until next time. Peace out.